Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is John Henry Soto. It is 7 a.m. So, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's having a blessed morning out there, getting ready to face the world. It is Tuesday, January 26th, 2021. And today we're going to be jumping into a conversation on setting a good example. So this is number 6, I believe, of the book, The Way to Happiness, which I've been covering. There's 21 precepts. We're going to cover every single one. We're up to number 6. And number 6 is set a good example, which is kind of funny. It's a short, it's only 2 very short pages. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. For me, my personal experience on setting a good example was that I've always felt sort of obligated to set a good example, right? But at the same time, I felt inhibited to really be exactly who I really am. Because sometimes, you know, your actions may not be the example that you want to set for a group of people or for certain individuals or for people that are involved in something that you're not involved in, or maybe they're on another side, opposing side. So when you say set a good example, it becomes it gets a little tricky because you can set a good example, but are you being true to who you are, and are you being honest about who you are and about what you want to communicate to the world? And that's where I struggle a little bit on what setting a good example means, or what I used to until I read this the book, because it kind of will make you think that setting a good example means that you have to work hard and don't curse in front of don't curse in front of anyone, and and dress properly at all times, and make sure you have that good job, you went to school, and you got that parchment paper, and it says on it right there in plain black and white with some calligraphy letters. It says right there you've graduated and that you are qualified per that piece of paper to do something, and setting a good example for the world. And I just didn't feel sometimes like I want to set a good example in those terms. And so that became a little bit of a struggle for me. Like, am I being myself, or am I just being what I think I should be because I want to set a good example, you know? And it wasn't until my old age years, these days today, where I realized, oh, I'm not being true to myself, right? Because I can still set a good example, but still be true to who I am. So I'm going to read this, and it might actually contradict because I don't remember. I read it not long ago, but I don't remember it word for word, and it may contradict what I just uttered. But that's the price that I'm willing to pay because that is what I wanted to communicate, right? So it says right here, set a good example. Number 6, the precepts from the from the way to happiness. Let me get a sip of coffee. I always have to wake up a little bit before I read in the mornings. Early morning reading is not easy. All right, set a good example. There are many people one influences. The influence can be good or it can be bad. If one conduct if see what I mean? If one conducts his life to keep these recommendations, one is setting a good example. Others around one cannot help but be influenced by this, no matter what they say. That could be a problem. Um, Anyone trying to discourage you is trying to do so because they factually mean you harm or are seeking to serve their own ends. Deep down, or give you that again, down deep, they will respect you. Your own survival chances will be bettered in the long run since others, influenced, will become less of a threat. There are other benefits. Don't discount the effect you can achieve on others simply by mentioning these things and setting a good example in your own right. The way to happiness requires that one set a good example for others. Okay, so that, like I said, that was a short one, but it really doesn't go into what I was saying. I think there are other ones that are coming up that kind of talk about that a little bit. I'll just give you some definitions here that we're not sometimes we don't really we may take. I know I do. I take sometimes words for granted. I don't necessarily dive into the word and find the definition that's suited for the material I'm reading. So this has a the word example. It says here, it says someone or something worthy of imitation or duplication, a pattern, a model. Then it says influences, has an effect upon, influence, the result, the resulting effect. So these are the two, influences and influence. So you could see there's, has an effect upon, and then influence, the resulting effect. So, but as we move on to this list, you look at number 7, which says seek to live with the truth. So seek to live with the truth. So that is part of, like, for me, because if I'm doing that, it may me find trying to find my truth, or not even my truth, but trying to find the truth on something, um, may not influence someone or it may upset them. So I'm not necessarily setting a good example in their eyes. Setting a good example would be, you know what? Stop trying to dissect everything and trying to find the truth about things, and just start living your life, and just mind your own business, right? That may be their idea of setting a good example, right? And this is where we're going to start getting into some really touchy subjects here, on the way to happiness, because I think society has taken away, or has slowly chipped away on some of these basic fundamental life values, and when that happens, I think society goes down as a whole. Um, and here we have the next one is to seek to live with the truth. And if you're seeking to live with the truth, but doing that may upset others, that becomes a problem for those people. So you're not necessarily becoming an influence. You're not setting a good example in their eyes. But does that mean that you should stop doing that so you can set a good example, or should you just continue with the precepts and seek to live with the truth? I think we just continue with the precepts, right? Then number 8 says, "Do not murder," which is kind of an obvious thing, right? But it's not saying do not kill, right? I think the Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill." This says, "Do not murder." So murder is it's premeditated, right? So it says here, murder. The definition. This is for tomorrow, by the way. It says murder, the unlawful killing of one or more human beings by another, especially with malice, right? Intending to do so before the act. So that means premeditated. That means that you actually planned it out. That's murder, right? Because sometimes if you're being attacked by someone with a knife, and the person's trying to kill you, and you hit them in the head with a hammer and you kill that person, that's not murder, right? That's self-defense, right? Um, and self-defense is a little bit different. So okay, so that's tomorrow's conversation. Actually, no, tomorrow's not that. Tomorrow is seek to live with the truth. So, just kind of backtracking a little bit on the on um, today's conversation. Um, So when you're trying to set a good example, like for me, for instance, growing up in the South Bronx was a little bit easy to set a good example, right? Don't smoke crack, right? Don't carry guns, don't stab anybody, don't rob anybody, don't steal cars. These are like things that I just knew, and my grandparents were very on top of me, as my mom was as well, on not doing these things. And I just learned early on that those are not good things to do. So I never did anything. I've never smoked anything. I've never done any kind of drugs. Alcohol. I drink alcohol. I don't know, once in a blue moon. Actually, I think 2020 I had for the holidays. I had some wine. That was it the whole year. Um, and what else have I? I've never obviously sold drugs. Now, I've been in the vicinity of people that have been selling drugs, right? So if I'm hanging out with a friend of mine and that friend of mine is friends with that guy and that guy sells drugs, well, by association, I'm certainly in a group of people that are not setting a good example, right? So that it's also who sometimes you hang out with, especially in that type of environment. But even any kind of environment, if you're hanging out with people that are promiscuous, or people that don't value certain things in life, or people that drink a lot, that talk about drinking, that people that do drugs, and sometimes, especially when you're in an industry that you meet a lot of brand new people and you have to work with them for a little bit of time and then go away. um you may meet people that are not, and I've been on sets with people that have been popping pills and it just being Adderall. I think it was. I remember once on a film set, and it was a lot of young people just popping Adderall, and I didn't know what that was at the time, and I went to research it. It's like a pretty messed up drug that's like given to like people that are really screwed up, and these kids were just taking it just because somebody had them around. So that certainly for me was not setting a good example by them, and me being there as well. But of course I didn't jump up and say, "Hey guys, I don't think you should be doing that." I did make a comment because there was one kid that was changed. Sometimes you have to change film from and it has to be done in the dark. um and we were outside, so there was no real place for him to go to in a dark place. So they have this big black tent thing, and they just threw it over him. I think it was like something to cover some equipment or something, and they just threw it over him while he was in there changing the film. And while and while he's in there changing the film, he had just taken in this Adderall thing. Because I saw them, about four of these kids, 4 or 5 of these kids. This was a college film that I was in, which actually was really a really good film. And so he's under this thing, and he starts screaming at the top of his lungs, "Oh my God, Kara, I'm gonna die in here. I'm gonna die." And then they're like, "You want me to get you out?" And he's like, "No, you'll ruin the film. You'll ruin the film." And I'm like, "Bro, stop. Why are you screaming? Ah, ah." And he's screaming. And then I'm like, "Yo, is he all right? Should we be calling for help or something?" And they were like, "No, I think he's fine." And then he came out a few minutes later, and he was just like, "All right, it's done." And I was just like, and then he worked the whole film again. I was like, "Dude, you're messed up. You ain't gonna do well in life. You think you are, but you is not, my friend." Um, so that was pretty an interesting thing. But when you're again, you're thrown into these situations when you're surrounded by people that are not um, living a life of to set a good example for others. And this is also extremely important when it comes to children, right? Children are sponges. They will emulate, they will repeat, they will remember what was said, what was done, how they felt, and then this will mold them on how they should be, you know, um, and what they think is proper because their parent is doing this. So this is the way I'm going to grow up. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to behave the way my papa did, right? And so when people are, you know, yelling at your kids, for example, like, and I mean, we have to sometimes, yell at our kids. I don't really yell at my kids. We don't really, like, "Get out of here," like that. That we don't. We've never done that. But if we have to like upbraid them for something and be like, listen, you got 30 seconds. If you're not off the tablet, brush your teeth and get your pajamas on tomorrow and for the next month. You got no devices of any kind, right? That's one of my go-tos. That always works. The kids they're like, "All right," they're not like but if I were to just yell and scream and be disrespectful to the child, and that child's going to grow up thinking that that's okay, and that's how they're going to raise their children. My grandparents didn't yell at me, and they probably should have, because I know I was a pain in the ass. But I mean, I'm a pain in the ass adult, so I can't even imagine what I was at 4 or 5 years old. But they didn't yell. They just let me kind of express myself, and they kind of just granted me the ability to be who I am and who I was at that time. And I remember that, so I didn't grow up having the to any kind of aggression or being upset about anything or even wanting to yell at someone. It just wasn't part of my DNA, because I didn't grow up with it. Again, there are people that do grow up with it and manage to realize, as they get older, they're like, you know what, that's kind of messed up. The way my parents spoke to me, or the way my teachers spoke to me, it's not okay. I have had teachers really disrespect me tremendously, and be just not good people. I remember once, and I went to St. John Chrysostom school, Catholic school, for the whole 8 years, and then I went to Catholic high school for like a year after that. And as I was in, I think it was second grade, I want to say. So whatever age you are in second grade. And obviously I'm a short man now, so if you can imagine what I looked like when I was in second grade. The security guard comes in, and everybody was sitting around. I guess they were kind of mocking me because I was short. Um, in some, I don't remember exactly what was said, but I remember there was some kind of attention on me. And the security guard, this was a woman, this this heavy set lady, grabs him by grabs me and turns me upside down and grabs me by my ankles, and she starts dangling me, and everyone's laughing and stuff, and I kind of laugh with them. But I was horrified because I was like, why is this happening to me? And she set me down. I mean, look how old I am right now, and I'm still remembering this traumatic experience by this woman who I don't even know who she was. I don't even know what her job was. I don't know her name. I don't remember seeing her again. And if I did, I probably was going the other, trying to run the other way. Um, but you have to wonder, like, what possessed this woman to do something like that to someone, to a child. You know what I mean? As a joke or some sort, because it wasn't funny for me, obviously. Um, there were some kids laughing, but I know there were other kids that were not laughing because they thought to themselves, "Well, am I next?" Right? Because I wasn't. I was short, but there were other kids that were short too. I was always the shortest in school, obviously, right? I was the shortest in school all the way up to my wedding. I was the shortest in my wedding, right? And it didn't become anything that stopped me from achieving goals or from trying to figure out where I can maneuver my height into a, whether it was in music or in film or this medium that I'm doing right now. It wasn't a stop. It was difficult moments, as a teenager, especially with girls and stuff. The term is tall, dark, and handsome, right? It's not, short, stocky Puerto Rican. I say stocky because I got to add something positive there. But yeah, it's not something that really was a huge barrier for me, um as I got older. But you have to really start wondering the responsibility of an adult that's around children, and why would someone disrespect them. So teachers also have a responsibility of setting a good example, obviously, right? And um my wife's a teacher. She sets an incredible example to the kids. The kids love her. They even in school, she would tell me when she was in the hallway from other, just walking down the hallway, other classes she had or other students that she had in the past would run up to her and give her a hug. Miss Soto, Miss Soto, you know. So she creates that example, and she would tell me stories of other teachers, not where she is right now, but of other schools that she has been in, where the teachers were just completely disrespecting these poor kids and telling them these horrible, "You're never going to be anything in life. You're a failure. Why are you going to be a loser?" To these poor kids. And these kids are having problems probably at home, some of the inner city schools that my wife taught at. um, and there were some, I'm sure that there were issues. I grew up in the inner city, so I knew we had issues at home, and there were issues in my neighborhood, and there were issues in, our neighbors. I remember our woman when we lived in the projects, and my brother and sisters always, we still make this joke, but there was a woman that lived upstairs, and she would yell at her daughter every morning to wake up. But it would be a yell, and it was the pipes used to go up through the wall, and there was an actually hole that you can look up and you can see upstairs, surrounded around the opening of this pipe, and it just ran across. It was a heating pipe, and it just go right up, and we would look at, so the sound would just come right down pretty easily. And this one lady would wake up her daughter. Her daughter's name was Michelle, and she would yell, "Michelle, get up! Get your effing ass up, Michelle!" Like this would be in the mornings, every morning. So it would be almost like an alarm. She was sort of like an insane rooster, a rooster on crack that woke up the neighborhood. And this poor girl, Michelle, we never saw Michelle. I have no idea what happened to Michelle. I wish her the best. I hope she's well. I hope she survived it. But her mother was definitely a mental case, you know, because that is not, and who knows what she went through. She probably, maybe she learned that from her parents or whatever. But you should never get to a point in your life, or get to a point where you're stressed out to the point where you are verbally abusing a child or anyone on a consistent basis. That to me is definitely a very sad thing. So anyway, that is my talk for today. Obviously, this is a conversation. You can talk more about this or any of these things that I'm talking about. You can have whole hour shows. I would love to at some point do a panel and invite people on where we can all have conversations on all these subjects. But there you have it. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I will see y'all tomorrow. Tomorrow's is what's tomorrow's again? Tomorrow, from the way to happiness, precept number 7: seek to live with the truth. So that's going to be a very interesting time, because sometimes people don't want to know what the truth is. and if uh, and if you do have it, they might not want to hear it because it goes against some of their realities. So that's going to be an interesting conversation tomorrow. So please tune in for that at 7 a.m. Want to wish you all a wonderful day. Stay safe out there. Enjoy yourself. Make today, wait, right there. Make today great. Do what you love. All right, folks. Thank you very much. God bless you. See you tomorrow morning. And as always, peace.